It just popped up.
Oh, there we go. I think we're live. Well, just a second.
Right on.
So guys, welcome to another GNCRC video live stream. So you guys know all these guys here. We got Ken, we got Chad, and we got Mac Rose. I'm just gonna let Chad take over, guys. So
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. How this kind of all got started is I've been in RC in one form or another since, I guess, the mid 80s. I got my first gold tub RC10 back then and raced it, and then got into on-road racing and got into, all different types of racing, touring cars, carpet, and then got out of it for a little while. And we have a son who, he's 10 now. I guess he was 7 when all this got started. He was interested in RC stuff. So I said, well, I'm going to go and buy a couple of these micro crawlers because, it's small, it's not super fast, so he'll be able to control it. And plus, if I buy one, I have to buy 2. So it was cheaper than buying a 10th scale or anything like that. And plus, if he didn't like it, I could keep it or, whatever. But my background in racing and stuff kind of took over like it always does. Anytime you get a couple people with an RC vehicle together, it turns into some kind of competition, even if it's informal, even if it's just who can get from one end of the parking lot to the other the fastest, or who can jump theirs the furthest, or who can break the most stuff. It always turns into that. And I keep coming back to that. And that's an aspect of it that I really enjoy. So I started just a local group, putting on a few competitions. And our first one, I think we had 6 or 7 show up. It's a couple years ago. And it's grown to the point that last year we had to cap some of ours at 30 because of pit space and parking and stuff like that. And we would fill up and have 15 or 20 people on the waiting list. So it's really picked up. But one of the things I was noticing when I was getting it started, I said, well, what kind of rules are we going to run? So I got on and I looked and I talked to, this person that ran this one, this person ran that one. Everybody ran something different. Some ran some that were super restricted. Some was basically just show up and run whatever you have. And so I just kind of did what they did. I came up with something that I thought worked well. And it did. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it worked well for what we were doing. And I kept hoping that someone was going to kind of take the ball and run with it and turn the 24th scale, or micro crawlers, I guess is better to say now since there's 18th scale involved too, into something bigger. And it never happened. It never happened. It never happened. And on one of the Facebook groups, I can't remember which one, it was actually, I think, Ken that asked, are there any bigger events that I can go to this year, nationals or anything like that? And it came up and it said, well, no, there's not anything. And there's not a way to do it because this group runs these rules. This group runs these rules. So I said, well, rather than wait on everybody else to do it, why don't I just do it myself? I figure I'm as qualified as anybody else. I've got a 40-year history in RC. I've run all kinds of events. Why not do it myself? So I'd been talking to Ben Lowe out of Colorado, and he kind of had the same idea. So I said, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's make it happen. Let's quit waiting on everybody else. Let's make it happen. So he and I got together, started a Facebook group for it. Anyone that's interested, our website is rcmcca.org, and there's a link to our Facebook group on the front page. So I encourage everybody to join. But we started that and we were talking and we said, well, okay, I've got these rules. Let's take a look at them. Let's make a few changes. Let's put the rules out there and get feedback. Because what I wanted to do was, I really wanted this to be a community effort. One of the things I enjoy most about RC, and I feel like I can probably speak for everybody, is the community aspect of it. You can take 2 people from different walks of life, give them both an RC car, and they'll immediately bond over that. So I didn't want to just sit there and say, these are the rules, here they are, take it or leave it, because that's really not any different than what anybody else is doing. I wanted to be able to say, this is a community thing. let's see what the community has to say about this, because, you don't know what you don't know. I know how we do things here, but they do it differently out in Colorado. They do it differently out on the West Coast, and they do it for a reason, and it's working for them. So why not put all our heads together and come up with something that's more universal? So the first thing we did after we put the rules out there, we started watching and seeing who was really interacting, who had the most to say, who had the best ideas. And then we approached those people and said, look, we're going to form a board of directors. We'd like you to be on it because we want to pull from the community. We want people from various walks of life, people with different levels of experience, different backgrounds, different ideas. We want to put everybody together and come up with the best possible organization. Sorry, I got COVID in January and I'm still got some of it hanging around. But
no problem.
So we started off with a board of 5 people, and we went through the rules line by line and came up with what we thought was a really solid rule set. We have a policy in place in our group that if we don't all agree on the rules, we'll all make our case and then we'll vote on it, and the majority rules. Again, it's not a dictator thing. I started it, but it's not my group. It's everybody's group. And I want everybody to know that it's, it's something for everybody. It's not just, I'm giving this to you. I want us all to come together and make this into something bigger, because I can't do it on my own. So we got our rules out there, and then we ended up adding 4 more people. So there's 9 on the board of directors now. Ken is one of our valued members. And so now our rules are out there. There are groups that are starting to use our rules. And we also are taking input from the groups using them. At the end of the season, we're going to go back through the rules and see if anything needs to be adjusted or tweaked or whatever. And we're going to take the input from those clubs. And, if there's a demonstrated issue where, this rule gives this person an unfair advantage, then we'll look at that and we'll see, what we need to change. Because, we're not perfect. We don't know everything. We're really confident in the rule set we've got, but, it's going to evolve as it goes. There may be a new vehicle that comes out next week that makes us completely rethink things. There may be a new motor or tire or something like that, hey, that's giving somebody an advantage. We need to address that. So
yep.
It's a living thing. It's not just here it is. It's going to evolve with the sport and grow with the sport.
Yep. And one thing that I really, why I wanted to get involved is I'm a big proponent of growing communities. And I feel like that this is the number one tool you need to grow a competitive side to the communities. There's a lot of people out there that are like, well, I want to do comp crawling. I mean, one of the bigger Facebook groups is the SCX24 comp group, but hardly any of those people comp because they don't know how to start. They don't know where to start. They don't have a rule set to start. They build these crazy comp rigs to show off on Facebook, but then they have nowhere to drive them or,
right.
Nowhere to compete with them more specifically. So I really wanted to make sure that, part of my role was to help make sure that the direction of it was community based. I wanted to make sure that things were going to be new user friendly, new person friendly, even though it's a competitive thing, a competitive rule set. You still want it approachable. You still want it easy to consume. You want people that aren't super experienced to be able to look at the rule set and say, oh, my truck is a class 2 or my truck is a class 3, or I want to build this style of truck without having to worry about scale points and all these different limitations and rules and manufacturers. I come from the on-road racing world, and there it's very restricted on what you can do. And the crawlers are very different because there's so much creativity that goes into a crawler build. You can do so much crazy stuff, and you don't want people to be shying away from the rule set because they're like, well, I have to worry if my truck will fit. So I think that Chad and all the guys that wrote the original rule set even had that in mind, that they wanted to make sure that you were as inclusive as possible. And I think that was huge. And that's one of the things that attracted me to being involved in the rule set. And I mean, even from the beginning, even before Chad started his, I was on the same path. He just got there earlier. You know what I mean? I wanted to start something competitive that was a national, if not global level. Same thing with the mini on-road stuff, that we don't have it there. It's all manufacturer ran. And that's another thing that I wanted to get involved with to make sure that we tried to avoid having manufacturer influence. I wanted to make sure that no manufacturers made it onto the board, not because I hate manufacturers. I mean, we love them all. You just don't want manufacturers changing the rules to fit their product lines. So I think that was very important, a decision that we all made to say, you know what, no manufacturers are going to be on the board. However, we will have rules advisory committees that can advise the board on changes or things that are coming. If a manufacturer is pushing a certain direction, they can tell us so that we can plan rules changes or announcements or classes or whatever that may need to be, because we don't want to lose communication with the manufacturers. It's very important that we keep all the lines of communication open. So yeah, I mean, we loved it. Obviously, how can you not love every manufacturer out there for the most part? They're all helping the hobby and it's awesome. So we want them involved. We just don't want them making rules, because I've seen the path that can take.
Right.
So anyway, I just want to put my piece out there on that.
Yeah. And
anyway,
what Kim was saying about manufacturers, we do have some, I'm not going to list any names right now, that are very interested in what we're doing and want to be a part of this. So when we get,
and they will be
next year, where we're doing our regional and national events, they're going to be involved in some sense. We don't know what that's going to be yet, but these are big names. Anybody that's in this hobby is going to recognize these names immediately. And it's nice to have that kind of support from the people that are making the things that we're driving. So it's picking up. The response from this is overwhelmingly positive. We've had a few naysayers here and there, and that's always going to happen. We knew that, and that's fine. But it's been a very positive reception. And I think it's really going to turn into something big, especially with us being able to involve the community in this and let them know that we're doing this with them, not for them. This is something that everybody that competes is a part of.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah, all that sounds great.
Yep.
I think it was a
Did
great
you guys
idea.
have you guys had a chance? Have you had a chance to look at the rule set? Just out of curiosity. No biggie if you hadn't, but do you have any?
Yes, I've looked at them. I've looked at it over completely, and I agree with most of it. I guess that not everybody's going to agree with everything, but
Right.
For the most part, I agree with everything. I mean, I got a few questions, but
So to address
good.
To address the fact that we're going to have people that don't agree with certain things, something as simple as a gate width being 6.5 versus 6, like a half-inch difference, people like to complain about. But one thing I would highly recommend is try the rule set before you criticize the rule set, because I know a lot of people are quick to jump and criticize the rule set. And actually, I'll give a little history on my background. I come from a game design background, tabletop card game design background. I spent 5 years developing a card game. I've got over 25 years of card gaming experience and rules development. So I'm very aware of how rules can be interpreted versus how they were intended. The rule intention is a lot of times one way, and then the public interpretation of that is another way. So that's something that we're going to learn along the way. And whenever you have a new rule set, you're going to adjust for those things, intention versus designer intention versus the perception of what the rule meant. So we'll get that. But again, I just highly recommend that if you're going to criticize the rule set, not that we've had a lot of criticism, actually, we've had tons of support, but just to be preemptive, I would highly recommend just trying to run it. And one thing you got to keep in mind is this rule set is designed to work for a wide audience. What was that, Backroad?
Put up the link. They're all asking for the where do they find the rules?
Oh, okay.
It's rcmcca.org. He's going to put it in the chat as well, but rcmcca.org. But yeah, one of the key things to remember is the rule set, and what we're trying to design is something that's supposed to be able to apply to a wide variety of locations and clubs. And it's for the club who has no rule set and they're like, we just want to start something. They can easily go and grab our rule set. It's again, easy to consume, easy to follow the rules, easy to set up. And not only that, there's support for that rule set, right? So if they have questions, there's a place they can go and ask questions. They can give feedback, so they can get involved as much as they want to. And then also, again, what I was looking for originally was there's national and world's level competitions that will be coming that will support that rule set. Because one of the things that really sucks about some of the on-road stuff, and I've even seen it in the crawler stuff, is everybody's got their different rule sets. And then when you go to another track or another crawl, your truck doesn't fit their rule set. You got to buy new parts while you're there, or you can't even compete. And you're trying to argue, well, just let me run this. And they're like, well, we can't really bend the rules, whatever. And that's totally understandable, but that's a fault of no centralized organization. So we are a centralized organization that houses a decentralized rule set where people can, where we vote on it. There's no one rule set maker. And again, another problem I've seen on road is there's rule sets that are one person runs it. And that is obviously horrible, especially when that one person's a manufacturer.
Right. That's why I got out of Roar.
Been there, done that.
And y'all allowed for a little bit in the rules. It says that you can adjust the gates and stuff, per your, where you're doing it and stuff. So there's a little bit of flexibility in the rule set already.
Exactly.
Right. And we encourage people, we can't sit here and say, this is going to be perfect for every single person. These are the rules that we're going to run when you get to the events we host, the regionals, the nationals, things like that. But if they need to adjust something to work better for their group of competitors, they're encouraged to do that. If it works better to, say, allow a different tire size, or if it works better to have more gates, less gates, wider gates, narrower gates, that's fine. Just know that, when you want to move away from those smaller, and I say, I don't mean small in a derogatory sense. Some of these people are getting 50 and 60 entries, but just the local groups.
They're personalized rule sets. I would call them personalized rule sets.
What you get away from that is what's on the website.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say that the most important rule of our rule set, I would call it, it hasn't been officiated, but I would call it rule 0. And that rule 0 would be that use the rule set in the most appropriate way for your drivers.
Yes.
Period. That's it. Like, use the rule set as a ground level starting point, and you can adjust it from there. But like you said, once you get to the upper levels, and again, the majority of the people that are going to run the rule set are probably going to run it pretty close, because they're just, again, there's people, the community puts a lot of trust in the directors here to make sure that we're trying to provide the best experience possible. And that's what it's about. It's about having fun and having a good experience.
Let me confirm. So these are the rules, right, for international events. This is in stone.
That's what is going to be run.
This is it.
There may be a tweak or two between now and when we do it, but those are the rules. So if you build something according to those rules, you're going to be legal for that class when it comes time for these bigger events.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
So I need to know.
Well,
and we do encourage people to take advantage of our Facebook group, or even the contact me on the website. If you have a question, let us know. We're happy to help. We're on there pretty frequently. I'm probably on there more than I should be. Don't tell my boss. But if you have a question, if you're not sure, how something is interpreted or whatever, post in the group. And I actually encourage people to post in the group, because we've had a situation where somebody did that and somebody else said, "Oh, thanks, I had that same question."
And it helps us clarify where the ambiguities are, because there's going to be ambiguities. And like I said, our intention as rules designers are not necessarily what you're going to take away from the words we put on the page. So we want to be able to convey our intention as clearly as possible. So the questions for the rules are huge. They're hugely important to make sure that we have the most cohesive, coherent rule set that people can easily consume.
Yeah, and I apologize for that issue you just said. When we set this up, it was set up private, and that wasn't intentional, but it doesn't let pages join. You have to join.
No, it's not a big deal.
But but we've come too far to turn back now. So that's just one of those things.
Well, I got a quick question about, in the rules, it refers to a lot about your club. Do we have to set up a club with y'all?
You do not. We encourage you to. And that's mainly, there's a couple reasons for that. One, that's to get your name out there, because we have a lot of people coming online and saying, I want to compete. Where can I go and find a competition? And we'd like to be able to direct them to our website and say, well, look, here's one, see if you can find one in your area. 2, becoming part of the club, a member club, which is free. There's no charge, there's no obligation, anything like that. Becoming a member club gives you the ability at the end of the season to give us input into any potential tweaks in the rules and things like that. Not that we're not going to value what other people say, but we're going to really take into account the clubs that run these rules because they have the experience running it. They know what's working, what's not working, what they'd like to see different. And we're gonna gather input from all of those member clubs to see if there's any kind of changes or whatever that need to be made. But the answer is no, you don't have to be a member club. Anybody that stumbles across this website is welcome to use these rules, do with them as they please.
Again, the idea of trying to get
become members.
Yeah, the idea of trying to get people to become members, like you said, is really trying to just build a hub where people can find those clubs. Because we all know that's probably the hardest thing is getting people together or finding a local club if you're not well versed in searching for Facebook groups or whatnot to try to find specific local clubs. This gives people a very easy place. So that's why we want people to be quote unquote members or start a club that we can list on the website. We want people to be able to find it.
That makes
Simple as
sense.
that. Yeah.
And if anybody watching this is in the situation where they're like, well, I'd like to do this, but I don't have a club. I'm just starting out. Contact us. We are happy to help you get started, share our experiences, share things that work, share things that didn't work, and get you up and running, get you off the ground and get you going. So
we're not just a rule
let us
set.
know.
We're a resource. The community and the rules committee is a resource, and the group that we run is a resource for everybody on how to run comps, not just a rule set.
Yes.
You want me to show anything specific on the Chad? You want to go over the rules? How do you? I don't know what you want to do.
We can do like it's probably too detailed to get into really deep, but we can do a kind of a high level run through if you'd like to. If you want to pull up the site, we'll kind of.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, definitely reach out if you guys are interested in doing something. And blacksmith, yeah, our classes are set by basically tire size, some body
stuff. Tire size, tire coverage, things like that. Yes.
Yep.
So class 1, there is a class 0, which is kind of below this class, but we'll get to that at the end. That's kind of a different class, and we'll explain that later. Class 1 is the one that allows the least modifications from a stock vehicle. It has a limit of 57 millimeter tires, and that is what the manufacturer says their tires are. I know that it's possible to mount tires on different wheels and make them different heights, stuff like that. There's a resource actually on here that has a tire list that I've tried to keep up that lists that, but it's basically tire size, it's tire coverage. So, we want this class to look as close as possible to a vehicle you might see driving down the street in real life. It looks like closer to a stock vehicle. It'll, it won't have the huge tire clearance. It won't use the big tires, things like that. So it's it's closest to a stock vehicle. It has the narrower gates. We allow flexibility as far as the way you build your vehicle in all these classes, as far as electronics, things like that, because we don't want to say this is a class for an SCX 24. This is a class for this.
Right.
Basically, our standpoint is if you can build a vehicle, doesn't matter what it is, that fits in these rules and you can fit them between the gates, you can compete with it. I mean, if somebody wanted to take a 10th scale and make it fit between the gates, whatever, if you can build it to fit these rules and these gates, it doesn't matter what manufacturer or what parts you use, you can compete with that vehicle.
So another thing to that point is that and a lot of other rule sets for the big scale. And like I said, on-road, buggy, a whole bunch of any RC, competitive RC stuff. One of the most time consuming and tedious and annoying things at events is measuring and teching the vehicles.
Yes.
Right? Like you're like, let me measure the wheelbase. Let me measure the height. Let me measure the width. Let me measure the tire height. Let me measure all these things. Let me check voltages. Let me check pinion sizes. Like it is the biggest headache ever. And it's very time consuming, and it's scary for a new person because they're worried, oh man, did I miss something or something I didn't know? Is there a rule I didn't know? So the idea with these rules is that it's all visual inspection. There's no measuring. You don't have to have a measuring tape. That's why he stated it's the manufacturer's designated tire size, because it's written on the side. We can check, okay, that tire is a 57. You know, there's no specific dimensions that are required because it makes it a lot easier to tech at an event, and it makes it a lot easier for people to make sure their trucks are correct.
And it also lets them build and compete with what they have. They don't have to, usually they don't have to go out and buy new parts just to fit into the class.
Yeah.
I mean, you may have to buy different size tires if you're running big tires if you want to run in class 1. But if you're running a brushed motor, or if you're running a brushless motor, if you're running 2S, if you're running 3S, they're all legal. And we also did that for future planning as well, because again, we don't know what manufacturers are going to release next. They may release, you know, a brushless vehicle. You know, Furatech has a brushless crawler that you can buy ready to run. We don't want to say, you know, okay, you buy this and you have to switch out the motor and you have to switch this out. If as long as it fits within, you know, the requirements of the class, you can run it.
Yeah, imagine if Axial came out with a brushless, ready to run SCX 24. Now you're like, oh man, like it's a brushless SCX 24 box stock. Yeah, there's issues.
We saw the competition vehicle they came out with today.
Yep.
You know, what if they come out with a 24 scale version of that? You know, that I hope they do.
We don't want to have to constantly adjust our rules to what manufacturers are doing.
Exactly.
You might not be able to avoid that.
Well,
there will be changes, but
if
you don't
that
want to
happens, yeah, we'll deal with that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
You don't want the rule set expanding and growing. I was very much about a concise rule set. So as an example, the rule set for the game that I was working on, it was like 8 pages long. And that sounds crazy, but our competitors' rule sets for like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, they were in the 30 and 40 page rule sets for comprehensive rules. And we were still under 10 pages. It was a huge deal to try to make sure you could get the most out of a simplified rule set. And so that's kind of the same thing going on here. We're trying to get the most out of a simplified rule set that doesn't have to get bogged down in the minutia of manufacturers making new stuff. We can run for a long time without having to make major changes. And if they are going to be changes, they're probably going to be pretty minor.
Yeah, and to touch on what Ken mentioned earlier about tech inspection, you know, if you go to a big national event, yeah, you're going to expect to spend a good amount of time in a tech inspection. You know, I come from an on-road background as well, you know, and I race Roar and I race IFMAR, and, you know, and it's,
you want it to be fair.
Going through tech and half the time driving, and then you don't have any time for anything else. We wanted to make it quick and painless to tech it, but we also wanted to make it easy enough that somebody just starting out, you know, that it's just them and a couple of their friends that want to put a competition together. They don't have to bring any calipers. They don't have to bring a measuring tape. They don't have to, you know, they can look at it. And I can look at a vehicle now and in 10 seconds tell you if it's legal for a class or not. And, you know, people will get to that point. It's very simple to just look at it and say, you know, it's legal, it's not legal. And we wanted that to work on all levels. It works great at national. It'll work great at nationals, and it works great. I've been using something very similar with our local club here, and people fly through tech. I mean, they check in. I tell them, bring their vehicle, let me see it. Okay, it's legal, done. And, you know, it takes them 5 minutes. So that's another reason there is some kind of stuff in the rules that's kind of not specifying certain things, no dimensions, no specific parts. You know, I don't want to have to tear open the diff to see if you have overdrive. I don't want to take your tire off to see if you have a different insert. I don't want to count the teeth on your pinion or your spur. I don't want to, if you have a battery that doesn't have a sticker on it, I don't want to see how much voltage it has. I just, you know, if it's a battery, you can run it. If it's you know, speed control, motor, servo, whatever, you can run it. And one of the things that we've gotten a little bit of feedback from is people think, well, okay, now I've got to drop all this money on a brushless system to compete. No, you don't.
No.
I highly encourage everyone to compete with what you've got. I personally am in the process of switching all of my brushless motors over to brushed for this coming season. One, because I want to do it, and two, to show people that you don't have to spend a lot of money to compete. Yep.
So that's exactly kind of why I'm working on this and trying this out. This is basically a box stock with wheels and tires. It's got flubbers in it. I melted my links so that I've got high clearance links. We're running the stock brushed motor with the stock V1 electronics. I could probably do a little better if they were V2 electronics, be honest. I'd probably do a little bit better if I had a more powerful motor, but I have an advantage in that my truck is super light. And again, you can take your rigs really far without spending a lot of money. Wheels and tires, I've got some brass hexes and brass here and some underdrive in the rear. Like, you can make a competitive rig without spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars. This is a stock truck, you know. Wheels and tires are the most expensive thing on here. So, and the flubbers.
What
Yeah.
class would that be in, Ken?
What was that?
That one would technically be a class 3 because he's not running a body.
Okay.
Right. This is totally a class 3 rig. Yeah. I mean,
And in class 1 and 2, your battery has to be attached to your chassis, so you can't run on the axle like that.
right. But my point is at the highest level of
Right.
competition, class 3, it's the hardest stuff you can keep up with a brushed motor.
Yep.
I mean, if I was to throw a Lizard Pro in here or a Lizard Ultimate or even a Chameleon and then throw in a little bit, you know, an 050 in here, I'd have tons of power. And again, I'm not even close to what a brushless costs. And it's going to have just as good slow crawl, just as good power, you know, at least 99%. So it's like, yeah, the argument between brushed and brushless right now, I just don't see it. But again, if after a year or 2 years of running this, we start to see nobody's winning without brushless, then we revisit that rule set.
Yeah, and at our local competitions, you know, I won class 3 at our last couple. The guy that won class 2 is running a stock chassis, stock motor, stock electronics, and he had a lower overall score than I did at both competitions. He had the lowest score out of the entire competition with a basically stock truck. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's definitely possible. I mean, we all love to spend a ton of money, and if you want to do that, I highly encourage you to. But you don't have to. I mean, you can compete with what you've got.
I think the two biggest, most advantageous upgrades to a truck is outside the tires, is inexpensive are going to be your servo and your ESC.
Mhm.
So again, it doesn't come down to whether it's brushed or brushless. It comes down to your ESC and then potentially your servo. But the Emax is a beast for the price, right? Like, and we're getting better, cheaper servos every day. It seems like there's a new servo coming out and it's a little bit cheaper. You know, like we're getting there.
Right.
I had a quick question about the class 0 servo. You say you could have a servo and a horn, I think, but can
And a
you have
steering
the
link.
tray? I guess you got to have the tray, right?
But yeah, the tray is something that we don't really consider in any classes. Anything that's not a performance part, like say someone wants to put lights or a roof rack or spare tire or something on theirs. Anything that's not a performance part is legal no matter what. We don't consider the servo tray to be a performance part. We do say, however, we specify no added weight, so that would eliminate a brass tray. But you could use a 3D print tray, an aluminum tray, something like that. That's not there to give you a performance advantage.
Well, what about the steering linkage in class 0? Can you use the aluminum steering linkage?
Yes, we specify you can use an aluminum steering linkage, but not a brass one.
Okay, all right.
And again, we do that because you know, not all vehicles apply to this, but you know, on the SCX24, the servo is definitely a weak link. Everybody knows that.
And so class 0
Out
again,
there
is
breaking their stuff, so we do that just for reliability.
right. And class 0, like we said earlier, is kind of a different thing from the other
Right.
class 1, 2, and 3. Class 0 goes along with my rule 0, which is whatever works for your club is really
Right.
what you want to do. And that's class 0 is really meant to be the starting point for clubs just to get people to show up on a weekly basis and run competitions. People can come in and they can buy a box truck and they can run it. And if they need to make adjustments because someone wants to run an FCX 24 versus a TRX versus an SCX, they can accommodate that and be flexible in that rule set. We won't be running class zeros in any of the higher level competitions though. Again, it's for the local events and the
And we
local
do
guys.
and we do recommend too, if anybody does run class zero, that they institute a rule that, you know, once you win class zero twice, you need to move up. You know, we kind of let the local people have free reign over class zero and tailor that to whatever works best for them. But yeah, that, like Ken said, we're not going to be running class zero at the bigger events. We're going to run 1, 2, and 3 only.
Gail Fun asks, can you have a front diff skid, like a 3-flow-9 skid on class 1?
Class 1, yes.
Yes.
Class 0, again, this comes down to the interpretation by the person running it. At my event that I run, I'm going to say no in class 0.
Yeah.
But again, that's something for local people to kind of get in. That's we view that as kind of the least expensive way to get into competing. So if someone shows up and they have a vehicle that
It's mostly stock.
other than maybe say that skid, you know, I encourage those people to make
Again, is that
works for
person, again, there's the spirit of the rules, not to cut you off.
Exactly.
It's the spirit of the rules. And
exactly.
if you know that guy is a new guy, he just bought that truck used off a buddy, he's crawled comp maybe one other night and he's like, I'm going to get into it. And he comes with that truck. You let that guy run.
Yeah. And
Just let him run.
And you're always going to run into people that are going to take the rules and they're going to try to exploit every loophole they can find and say, oh, well, it didn't say I can't do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, you know, that's going to happen. And if that happens too much, we'll maybe address it or whatever. But, you know, if it's not I say let them run if it's not an issue, if it's not giving them an obvious advantage. You know, we'll leave that up to the local people, but
You just inform them, hey, it's against the rules, but we're going to let you run until you can get it fixed. Try to get it fixed in a timely manner. And if you take too long, and we just won't let you in eventually, because you're going to know after 3 months that this should not be that way.
Yeah. Next time you show up, have a different steering link on there.
Just a little clarification. I know
Absolutely.
and I talked about it. The body in class 1, the widest part of the body must be wider than the entire inner edge of all 4 tires.
Yeah, hang on one second. Let me grab. I'll show you a couple examples.
What's your question first, though?
So, what is that exactly? I think I know what it means. Sound like it means that, like what do you call it? The cliffhanger body. The wheels got to be inside there, but I don't know if that's what it is.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Okay.
The intention of that rule was to avoid people having their tires sticking outside of the body, giving them a lot more suspension room and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You may not be able to see this on camera. It's the dead.
Okay, we see it here.
The widest part of the body needs to be wider than the inside edge of all 4 tires. So you see this one qualifies. This is the widest part of the body. And it's wider than the inside edge of all 4 tires. And we say widest part of the body because, you know, something like this, the fenders are the widest part. But something like this, you know, the doors are the widest part, or on the deadbolt, the doors are the widest part. So it's the widest part of the body, but that does not take into account things like if they've put some scale mirrors on there. Mm-hmm. You don't want to see somebody showing up with a mirror 2 inches wide saying, "Oh, well, that's not part of the body." Yeah. That's outside the spirit of the rules. I would expect the race director to say, "No, come on, you know better than that." The body itself. And the body has to be the way it came from the factory. You can't trim it. You can't cut the fenders off. You can't, you know, make the wheel wells bigger. Right. You have to run the body the way it came. It has to be cut along the factory cut lines.
Yes, Grizzly Works made a good point. The new AX24 falls outside of that rule because the wheels, the inside of the tire is outside of all points of that body. So. Right. And that car's an all-wheel steer anyway, so it'd be a class 3 right off the bat.
It would be class 3 out of the box. Yes.
If you were to run that body on a box stock deadbolt, that would not fly. Yeah. Right.
You would have to build your vehicle in such a way that the inside edge of your tires is narrower than the outside edge of that body.
Yeah, you'd have to have like a negative offset wheel that sucks.
I don't know if that's even possible, but in order to run that body, that's what you'd have to do.
Well, I want to touch on something else you just said. You said Class 1, you got to cut the body at the stock cut lines.
Correct.
But then you also state that it's a 57 millimeter tire.
Correct.
How does that work together?
I guess you
That
have to
is
run
up-
a smaller tire.
That's up to the person that's building it. You know,
Okay, that's what I was wondering. So
right. Like you're not going to put a 57 millimeter tire in this wheel well.
no.
But that's something that's up to the person building it. You're allowed to swap bodies. You're allowed to, you know, you'll need to figure out what works best on your vehicle to stay within the rules.
I got you.
Yeah, it's not that you have to run a 57. It's that
Yeah,
that's your
57 is
max.
the max. You can run any size you want.
All right, come on with the questions, guys. 'Cause I know
Yeah,
everybody got
absolutely.
questions.
What if you cut the fenders
I
to
have
run
another quick
3D
question.
printed fenders? So Sinister's at, and I knew this would come up. Sinister's
Yeah.
asking, what do you do if you they 3D print really wide fenders?
Again, that's something that comes down to the spirit of the rules. We throw that term around a lot, and there's a reason. I think that's one of those examples of someone that was trying to maybe intentionally or unintentionally exploit a loophole in the rules. If you show up with a Betty body and you have fenders that wide on it, honestly, I'm probably going to let you run them because that's going to cut out all your suspension. You're never going to get through the gates. But you know, it's going to come down to the judge. If you scroll down to the rules, the very bottom rule is, in all matters, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly how it says, the people running the competition have the final say. Their word is final. And that's not a dictator type thing. That's a thing, you know, the judge is in charge. So you need to respect what they're saying. I don't think any judges are going to be holding something against somebody.
Sinister, yes.
The judge should know, okay, the rules intended for this. It's intended to keep you from putting these Swamp Kings on this body. It's intended to keep you from doing things like that. So it's you know, if somebody shows up with super wide fenders, we'll take that into account if that happens. I would look at it and say, okay, if it's giving you an advantage, no. If they're super wide and you don't have any suspension travel, sure, run it. Go ahead.
I'm sending this out to a couple of the guys. Let them.
All right, I got a quick question about winching.
Okay.
So winching is 2 points. You get 2 points for winching, but then it also says if you use the winch stick, it's 5 points. So if you winch on a winch stick, you get 7 points.
No, you get one or the other. If you use a winch that's attached to your vehicle and you attach to the terrain, I think it's 3. Is it 2? Whatever.
It was either 2 or 3. I'm not sure.
I believe it's 3. I've looked at the rules so much I don't have them committed to memory.
It's 3. A self winch with a winch
That's a
attached to your
self-winch.
vehicle is a 3 point.
All right.
If you either use the winch attached to the winch stick, like if you don't have a winch on your vehicle, the winch stick will have one on it. If you use that one, it's 5 points.
Okay. All right. I
If
got
you
you.
attach your winch to that stick, it's 5 points. And the reason behind that is if you're using a winch stick, you can put that stick wherever it's going to be the most advantageous for you.
Yeah.
If you're having to winch to the terrain itself, you may not be able to put your winch where you really want it. You may have to compromise and put it, somewhere else because it won't connect to this.
Also, some of us see the winch stick or the winch on your vehicle as a detriment to a degree
Yes.
sometimes because it's heavier. You can only usually winch from the front of the vehicle, whereas the winch stick, you can hook it to the side of your cage, you can hook it under your axle. You can do a lot of tricky stuff with the
Yes.
winch stick winch. So it's more points.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Another quick question I have is about time. Say 6 minutes for a course.
Correct.
All right. All right. And then you got all the points also.
Correct.
Well, say somebody finishes it in 5 minutes and somebody finishes it in 4 minutes and they both got the exact same amount of points.
Right. Then the person
Is that a tie? The time doesn't count, right?
the person with the fastest time is considered the higher finisher.
Yes, the time is the tiebreaker.
The time is a tiebreaker. If the points are not the same, say I finished with 10 points Ken finished with 20 points. No matter what the times are, I would have a better score.
I
If
got you.
we finished with
So
the same score,
it's
whoever
really
had
just
the
for
fastest
finishing.
time. What's that?
The time's really just for finishing in 6 minutes. It doesn't count
Cool.
against you unless it's a tie.
If correct. I mean, or if you DNF. Yeah. I mean,
It's to keep the event also moving along, right? Like
exactly.
if you don't set a time, people will spend 10 minutes on a course.
Right.
Yeah.
On one part.
exactly.
I understand now. I understand. I got you.
Yeah.
Let's see if we got any more questions. Well, go ahead.
All right.
Will.
I had another quick question too about
Sure.
the 50 points if you don't finish in time.
Correct.
And does that add on to your points you already got?
So how that works is if you don't finish, you get a 50-point penalty. It will not it will take into account the points that you have accumulated or penalty points that you've accumulated during the run. However, there is a 50-point limit, a 50 penalty point limit that you can hit. So if you're going, you get several penalties and you hit 50 points, your run stops there. And again, that's something that local clubs may not want to run that. I'm not running that at my first couple of events this year because I want everybody, I have some new people and I want them to get as much time as they can.
Oh yeah.
But when we start to get to the bigger events, we are going to enforce that.
Yeah.
But
The nationals and stuff.
the 50 point out, that's your maximum score is 50 points for that.
I got a question.
DNF penalty attaches to any other penalty points that you have.
I finish. Someone says, Scale Phone says, can you slightly trim the fenders that curl down like on a Jeep body for class 1? Or does that launch you into class 2?
That's an interpretation thing. The reason I say no is because where do you set the limit as far as trim?
I feel like any trimming beyond that normal line that was there for the fenders, if you trim that at all, you're now in class 2.
Right. And that's for that reason, because I can see the argument, oh, well, let me lightly trim it. But what is lightly? Lightly to me is maybe not the same as lightly to you.
I might do the whole thing.
So the only logical thing in our opinion to do was whatever the manufacturer cut line is, that's what you've got to run in class 1.
Makes sense.
Well, on some bodies like the J
That's one
Concepts
of the
bodies,
things.
I think there's multiple cut lines. What do you do about that?
I haven't seen any with multiple cut lines. If that comes up, we will make it a judgment when that comes.
All right, I got you.
So, again, we don't know what we don't know. There may be some out there that have multiple cut lines. And if that's the case, we'll address that when that comes up. And we'll make whatever kind of clarifications we need to in the rules.
So CCRC says 50 points and out would shut down 50% of our runs down.
Yeah,
Again, that's
what I was
also why
thinking
we
too.
run. That's also why we run a little bit wider gates, right? Like I remember just talking about wider gates with people and they were saying our gates are too wide, but that's part of it. It's part of, we want to run more. We want people on the course more. We want them to focus on the terrain and the obstacles, not the gates. So we would rather run a little bit wider gates, and the gates are just there to direct your run through specific points of the course. Your focus should be on making it up that hill or through that valley or over that rock. That's the obstacles that are the focus, not the gates. And so, if you run a lot of gates, he just said they run a lot of gates, that's also going to be an issue, right? Like, of course, if you're going to run 20 gate courses,
Correct.
then you're going to have to make adjustments for the rules. You're not going to be able to do 50 points and you're out,
Right. And we encourage people to do what works best for them. But just know when you come to the bigger events, we're running 10 gates. We have a 50-point limit. How we're going to run our rules here is we're going to enforce the 50-point rule as far as scoring goes, but we're not, for our first couple events, I'm not going to make them stop when they hit 50 points. When they hit 50, I'm just going to stop keeping score because I want them to get the practice of driving through gates, driving over obstacles. But that keeps you from having, if somebody's having a really hard time or their vehicle's not set up for the course and they're new driver, whatever. I mean, we had somebody that had 450 points last year. and that happens, but it's just easier to for us at this point to stop
I mean, once you've hit that 50 points, you're probably not gonna be
You're not gonna win
placing in
anyway.
the top 10 anyway. You're not. Yeah. So
again,
yeah.
And when I say we, I'm talking about my club that I run here, and not RCMCCA. When we have those RCMCCA hosted events, they're going to run exactly as the rules are on the website.
So Dirk asked, can you heat up a Lexan body and create a fender flare or shrink in a fender flare? He didn't say that, but that's a thought. Is it still technically body intact? So we had a discussion about that sort of thing, not directly related to bodies, but it was more related to class 0. But we kind of felt like any sort of melting or heating or bending of anything, whether it's links, body panels, whatever, axles, if you could do some crazy thing because you melt the axle in some way, that stuff is the same as a modified cut, essentially.
Yeah, that's outside the spirit of the rules. So that would not be legal for a class 1.
So another question, where would the hard body fit in?
That's an interesting question, and that's another thing we discussed recently. That is something that's going to come down to, this is kind of ambiguous. I don't mean it that way. It's going to come down to a judgment call. If somebody shows up with a 3D printed body that looks like a real vehicle, the wheel wells are, the right scale. It's the right width. It's not some really crazy 3D printed, super narrow, giant wheel well thing. We're going to consider that legal. But it's an interpretation thing, because there's no way we can know every single body that somebody's going to print. There's no way we can know anything that somebody's going to do. It's going to come down to the judge's call as far as the spirit of the rule goes. So if you're going to run a 3D printed body, there's 2 things I recommend. One, make sure that your body looks like the real vehicle if you're running it in class 1. Class 2 and class 3, there's a lot more freedom. But also, too, before you show up, post it in our group, send it to the person that's running your competition, find out, because, it would be terrible to show up not knowing that you're illegal and then be said, well, you can't run because of this. I know there are going to be people that are going to try to take advantage, but there are going to be some people that are going to unintentionally have an illegal vehicle, just not knowing. So that's why, again, this is a community thing. Post it on the Facebook group, contact us, let us know, and then you can know going in. And you can know, okay, I need to change this or I'm legal.
Yeah, and I think we all know that, a 3D printed or hard body is going to be probably a detriment at any class. So I think the lenience there is appropriate because they're already at a detriment by having a heavy hard body or 3D printed body. And we've had a lot of discussion about scale points and separating classes between hard and soft, Lexan bodies and stuff. And I think that may be something that will be more heavily discussed later on after a first couple seasons worth of data and feedback. If we find that people want scale points is like a deal breaker for people, then we'll look at adding a scale point thing. But again, that creates more tech inspection, creates more delay in the start of a event, creates more arguments potentially. The more rules you have, the more difficult they are to follow, and the more nitpicky people will get over those rules. So again, this is a first rule set, guys. First rule set, and it's gonna take some beating. And hopefully it's resilient. We feel like it is very resilient. And hopefully people enjoy it. That's the goal, right? The goal is that people enjoy doing the comps with the rule set. Right. If people are not having fun because there's not scale points, I guess we're failing there. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
Like I said, I've been running these for 2 seasons. Haven't had the first person ask about scale points. Yeah. I know that's important to some people, and that's great. If that's something that's if we get a lot of feedback that says, yes, we need scale points, then we'll talk about that. Right now we want to spend more time driving, less time inspecting.
Yep.
After all, we get these vehicles to drive them. So that's kind of our goal.
I want to ask diecast.
Go for it. Run it.
If you show up with the diecast, I'm gonna let you run it no matter what it is. If you want to have a heavy diecast body on your vehicle, bring it on.
Somebody's asking about gate widths again. Yeah, that's minimum gate width, guys. So
Yes.
6.5 or 7. If you want to put a 10-inch wide gate because the obstacle requires it, and it's not, again, it's not about the gates to you, it's about hitting that obstacle, then you can put a 10-inch gate.
Yes. Yeah, they're minimum. We've had occasion too where we've had like an 8.5-inch gate just because of the way the terrain was. We couldn't get the gate to sit right. So it's a minimum. It's not a maximum. You can make them as big as you need to. You just can't make them any smaller.
You guys have any videos or like some events that you ran? Like you detect them or something like that people can check out or anything like that?
I have some of our club, but they're really raw videos. They're just there's stuff that people took as they were competing. So it's not, I don't know how much you can see.
Mhm.
But if you go to our page for our club, which is midatlanticmicrocrawlers.com, Mid-Atlantic Microcrawlers, and go to our previous events, we have videos from both events. Again, I don't know how much you can tell from them, but
And again, this is new. This rule set was just released not even
Yeah.
a month ago. So there's going to be places out there. They're going to be doing some filming and whatnot. And
right.
you'll see more as you come.
Right. Yeah, and our
Maybe,
videos
maybe
are
we
not
need you
gonna-
to get some footage, Corey. Come on now.
Yeah. Definitely some point. Me and Justin definitely will. Right, Justin?
Yeah.
Justin will definitely help
Okay.
you out.
So
Well, I have another-
CCXRC, sorry, Tony's asking, will people travel to a national event for 10 gates in 6 minutes? I don't think that's the total.
It's not.
It's not the whole event.
Well, no, I wouldn't expect them to
Totality.
for one run at 10 gates in 6 minutes. What I would expect is what we envision is multiple courses, multiple runs. The number is yet to be determined because we don't have
a cumulative event score over multiple course. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be
one course is not the totality. Oh my God, dude, I'm totally failing here.
But no, they wouldn't travel to that. But
yeah,
what we envision and what we're planning is multiple courses. I would expect everybody that shows up to get 5 or 6 runs. It might be on the same course, might be on different courses.
It's going to depend on the event.
It'll be worth the trip.
I think Justin, you had a question, right? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, if I say I start a club, and I start doing events at our local place,
yes,
am I supposed to charge these people per class, or
that's up to you?
Send the money to y'all, or
no?
Keep
There is no charge from clubs. There is nothing like that. They charge what clubs charge what they need to do what they need to do. We don't expect any money from them. The only money we're going to be collecting is when we do the events that we host and those entry fees there. So
and that money goes to basically put together the event for prizes, for trophies, and the same is going to go for your local club. If you want to start a local club, go to your local RC place or your track or whatever, ask them. If they say, hey, yeah, you can have Monday nights, run it whenever you want, and then they're not going to charge, you don't have to charge. If you want to personally charge, you can talk to the store owner and be like, hey, I want to charge for the event so that I can provide them store credit or parts prizes or nameplates or stickers or whatever. You can do that.
Right.
Again, we're not in charge of anybody's funds or anybody's management of funds. So make sure you're being as transparent as possible and that your community understands what you're doing with those funds.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Look, we charge at our events, and that's only because some of the places that we go are public parks, and I have to get a permit for that, and that costs money. And I give out prizes, and those prizes cost money. Or when I go to someone's hobby shop, I rent it from them for the day. So, but if you don't want to charge, don't charge. It's your club to do with as you please. And we don't say you have to charge. We don't say what you have to charge. We don't say what you have to give away. If you have to give away anything, that's up to you. That's your prerogative.
I got a question for you. So,
sure.
Aaron X, Fox 24 Butcher, or the T-Hunter body. I mean, because I'm guessing I'm right. You guys can run the 18 scale along with the 24 scales, am I right?
We don't specify a scale. We specify that it has to have certain size tires, certain coverage, has to fit between the gates, whatever scale that is, because we all know that scale is arbitrary. The TRX 4M is 18th scale. The new axial buggy is 18th scale, and they're completely.
Yeah, they're totally different.
We just specify that it has to have certain size tires, certain body coverage, has to fit between the gates.
If you can take a UTB 18 and fit it between our gates, run it.
If you wanted to run one of those 132nd scale Orlando Hunters, I mean, it's
not a bad idea.
We don't specify manufacturers, brands, scales. We just specify dimensions, or not even dimensions. Certain rules it has to conform to.
I'm just here for the totality of this conversation.
Totality. Thank you.
Hey, Ken.
Dude, I was just struggling with that.
I know, I get there.
Yeah, it's not the totality of the event.
Yeah, some questions about it, man.
I ain't got no question.
Okay.
I'm just here
questions,
to gain knowledge.
Have you checked out the rule set, Maz?
How you doing, Chad?
Hey, how's it
I've
going?
looked over them. I've spoke with I think Mitch, EMW.
Yeah.
Yep.
I spoke with him in length. I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago about it.
So Osborne also asked a question earlier and I forgot to address it. He was asking, how does he get involved? He doesn't have Facebook, so he can't join our Facebook groups. He's an Instagrammer. What's the best way for him to kind of get involved? Is it just sign up through the website?
To start off, go to our website. There's a contact me page. Those that just fill that out, that email comes directly to me. We'll get in touch and we'll get you set up. We don't have Instagram for the group yet. That'll probably come later on there, but the easiest and quickest way is to just, if you have a question, get on the website and email me.
I missed the whole thing. I've been doing a bunch of work. What can y'all give me like a brief rundown? Not nothing like full length, but what y'all went over?
We just basically kind of talked about how we got started, what the whole thing is that we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
And it's a set of rules that's going to allow, we hope is going to allow growth in the hobby, to kind of help unify it and make it more of a community-driven thing, and be able to offer bigger events, regional and national events.
Yeah. I guess that goes kind of towards and it's like I spoke with Mitch, like I said, in length about it, but it's like I said, this is new and it's ever evolving as well. You know what I mean? It's not like, so I think a lot of people see rules and they go, oh, this sucks,
Right.
or not saying they suck. I'm saying you get both sides of it, but you get guys go, oh, these suck. This doesn't do good for me. This doesn't do good,
Right.
for this. But in all reality, that's always evolving. Something may change.
Exactly.
Something may, you know what I mean? Like if you get obviously if people get, if you see pushback from a majority of people saying something, you are going to take that into account. And it's all for parity across the whole competition.
Indeed.
That's what it's really there for, and to legitimize it, to where it's not just us going out there and throwing a couple gates up here and there, random bit, wherever we feel like it. So yeah, I'm all for it.
That's why we encourage people to, if they want to get involved, become a member club, run the rules, and end of the season, we're going to take input from all the member clubs. And if we see a trend, if we see, okay, we need to adjust this rule or that rule, we'll take that input from them and we'll discuss it and we'll figure out what's the best course of action.
So what is y'all's terms? Like if somebody's I would assume that y'all are all for your rules plus house rules, like house over rules. I don't know.
Well, so one of the things I mentioned was, I like to call it class or rule 0, fits along with our class 0. Rule 0 is that you make sure you cater the rules to your local guys.
Right.
Yes.
If you got a bunch of dudes that are running these bodies and that doing this is going to basically only have 2 or 3 guys left in that class, you go, okay, hey, we're running, the RCMCEA. I'm trying to I got it down. I think I got it.
You got it. That was right.
It takes me a second because I always want to say RMC. We're going to run these rules, but this is the rules, and we've asterisked what we've
Exactly.
changed for this event,
Yep.
you will be able to run this specific body or
Exactly.
this specific combo that
As
we
long
know
as
a
you're
whole
clear.
group of guys are already been competing
Exactly.
class
And-
2 with or class
yeah,
3 or whatever.
And a good example of that, there's a club near here that did an event a couple weeks ago that used our rules, but their event is at a miniature golf course and it's huge. And they had like 40 some gates.
Mm-hmm.
They adjusted the maximum time. They adjusted the maximum penalty to work for what works for them.
Yeah.
But the other thing on the flip side of that, just know that if you come to the events that RCMCCA hosts, they're going to be run exactly as it is on the website.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So we encourage people to do what works for them because we don't, like I said earlier, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
But
if y'all have an event like Beat the Creek, obviously y'all's rules that's y'all's rules. That is y'all's house rules.
Exactly.
Realistically,
Exactly.
that's the way I look at it. It started as y'all's house rules and evolved from there. That's completely understandable.
Yes.
And it's still kind of over the big scheme of things. It still says like they're still your house rules. So y'all may change something internally with y'all as a collective and then be like, okay, this is something we may look at. You know what I mean? Like, or you may do something on the fly that, you know what I mean? Not saying that would happen, but I think people get real stuck on the mindset that it's like a rule book. Like, okay, let me bring this pad out every time I need to go to a comp. And you probably do need to go over, and I would expect that event promoters and stuff like that would always post their rules plus their additional asterisks anywhere. That's what I would at least advise. But I think it's cool that, like I said, it can always evolve, it can always change. Something can change. There's always going to be stuff that, is going to be, you got a big group of guys that are pushing for, hey, this is, something that's not really hindering us, but we would like to run it. Or it's not really making us like a huge step forward, but we would like to run it. You know what I mean? Like, you look at different stuff. It's all about the parity between competition. Like that's in anything, motorsports, all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, it's all to keep a level playing field.
Yeah. And we don't claim to have all the answers. So, if it turns out that several clubs have modified this rule and it seems to be flowing better for them, we may adapt that ourselves. It's an evolving thing. It's a community thing. It's community driven. It's not, we put the rules out there, you go follow them or get
and
lost.
it's kind of like they're going to get out of it what they put into it. Like the more input they put into it, the more that they're going to get out of it. They may not, they may come to y'all with 10 different things. They might get one thing, or something like that. But
and we're going to take into account the size of their club too. If they have 2 people turn out on the regular versus a club that has 50 people turn out every week, there's going to be a weighted, value.
And just because a club says we need to change this rule doesn't mean it's going to happen.
No, exactly.
But
what I'm saying is, by being quiet about it, though, I think some people look at the rules and they're like, okay, that's just is what it is. I can't say anything about that. You know what I mean?
But the commitment that we make is we're going to listen to any input that comes, any feedback that comes from the clubs. Yeah. And if we see a trend that, okay, we need to change this maximum tire size for this reason. And a lot of them are saying that, okay, maybe we look at that.
Yeah.
So CCX asked, are clubs supplying judges or do people judge each other? And again, that's going to depend on how your club wants to run it. I'm big on having people judge each other as long as you're doing it in a way that avoids collusion. But getting people involved to judge helps them learn the rule set. Again, if people don't want to judge, then so be it. I feel like there's a big advantage to helping judge and helping winch, stuff like that. You learn a lot more and it gets people more involved. And the more you can get people to actually get out and do something, right? Even with just getting somebody to show up and crawl at a comp event, that you slowly integrate them more into the system and they're stuck there. They want to be there. They're excited about it. They understand the rules better. They want to judge. They want to organize events. Now you have somebody you can lean on to help run a night when you're not there or run a bigger event and they can help judge and be a main judge at a larger event. So getting people involved is a huge deal. You can try to judge everybody yourself, but it's not going to run your club as smooth.
If any of my local guys are watching, this is coming as a surprise to them. They don't know it yet, but I'm going to get more involved in judging this year. That's kind of been one of our drawbacks is I've done all the judging myself. I've got a couple guys that have been helping me now up until, the last few competitions. I haven't been able to compete myself because I've been judging everything. But honestly, once you've competed a few times, you should know, you should be able to drive through a course and call out your own penalties and say, oh, I hit a gate. Oh, this is a rollover. Oh, it's a winch.
We don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Dirk says he just wants to judge people. So Dirk's he's already on it.
Yeah.
That sounds like Dirk.
I think it's a great idea. Like I said, it's always ever evolving, and people just need to, I would say, instead of getting down about it, like I said, you're going to get out what you put into it. If you just sit back and go, I don't like them rules, this, that, and the other, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. That does nothing for you. Get involved with it. Speak with people, may change your mind one way or another. You may do something, like I said, but I'm all for like what y'all are saying. Everybody putting their, putting into it, trying to, get something that's a standard. That's the whole deal. Like everybody's been asking for this. Everybody's been asking for it. I've always said, Corey can attest to this. I've always thrown my hands up and say, I don't want nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? Right. That's me. I told Ken this. I don't want shit to do with it. You know what I mean? I'm here for the party, but that's what
you
it is.
don't want to be there and the cops come knocking at the door.
Right. Yeah. It's a book, man. But like I said, I'm glad, and I think I spoke on Steve's online. I can't remember. I guess it's 2 weeks ago. I've been under the weather a little bit. And that's the same thing I said. I said, y'all are doing this on y'all's own time, on y'all's own dime. That's a big thing to me, is like, you're going forward to try to push this. You got a nice website, got all the stuff going with it. That's that's a big deal to begin with, because it took somebody to get it going. You know what I mean? We need to legitimize it where you can actually be scored on a scale, from, you don't even, at that point, you don't even have to be in the same state. A lot of times you can go look at other people's, scores but it may be a different course, whatever, but you can at least know kind of how they did. You know what I mean?
You can see the top runners. You can see consistently week to week who's doing good, and depending on how clubs run it. I mean, in the on-road world, there's some pretty awesome software that people use to run those races. And you can look. I can go and look up my Mini Z races since I've started racing Mini Z, and it's got every race database.
Yeah, there has to be a simple database to do it.
Yeah. Well, so at some point, it'd be nice to grow this to something like that.
Well, that's something that I think kind of communicating with our member clubs. It's not at a point where they can just upload their stuff. Maybe down the line, but right now, I encourage them to send me their results. And I would like,
you can at least post them.
And we can post them. We can put them on the website. We can post them in the Facebook group.
And on that note, if any of you guys out there are super tech savvy, website builders, database designers, you want to help volunteer, this is stuff like that is how you can do it. Promoters, if you're good at making little short videos, promote it. If you're good at social interaction and getting communities together, do it. Get some communities together, start building. Anybody that wants to get involved, we are open to that help. Obviously, again, we're not getting paid and we're not paying, but
oh, you haven't got your paycheck
that's how this stuff comes to be.
I gotta thank Ken.
We're all doing this because we have a passion for this, and that's the bottom line. We want to see this hobby grow and develop into something bigger and something that even more people can enjoy. And that's why we're doing this.
Now, let me thank Ken and Making and Breaking. I think Making and Breaking is one of your, but they've been on here on this chat and they've been answering a bunch of questions. I appreciate that.
I think it's super good, man. I'm all for it. I like it. So I like I said, when I spoke to Mitch about it, I was super pumped about it. So, that it'll be a good deal. Hey, when you were talking about that golf course, were you talking about the one in Winston or in North Carolina? Yep. Yeah, that was, unfortunately I couldn't make it, but that's like I guess that's like literally like 10 minutes from me.
Are you that close to me?
Where are you at?
Roanoke.
Yeah, I'm about 3 hours out from you. I'm Winston.
That's 2 hours. Winston's 2 hours.
2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Speaking of distance, guys, somebody was asking, where are the larger national events going to be held? And we don't have any specific place yet. But I mean, if you take a look at the board and who's involved, you're probably going to be somewhere around where those people are.
I have several ideas, but there's too much behind the scenes that we have to do before we can make any kind of.
Yeah, that's a ways out. That's a ways out.
Yeah.
And so that brings me to some questions. And like I said, I have no dogs in the fight, so I'm just kind of thinking on both sides.
Well, but now that I know that you're this close, I'm gonna get you to one this year.
Say what?
Now that I know that you're this close to me, I'm gonna get you to one of our events this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. I need to. I got to get out. I was talking to Corey today about wanting to do some stuff, so I'm down. I mean, if you need anything, even for me, like I said, I've told I won't crawl probably. Usually, I'll just come support. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Maybe do a vendor setup or something like that.
We do that at ours. So I'll talk to you about that.
I like to down just support. Be able to be out there. So anytime you need something, I'm not that far out, man. I'm more than happy. Yeah, I bought a Hayabusa back in the day from Duncan Motorsports out of Duncan. I think they got a Honda place too, but they got a power sports place.
I work within sight of that building.
Yeah, that's a nice place. I like rolling up, man. It's nice up there, man. So yeah, like with that, I got a couple things, I guess. Not me, I'm sure. I don't talk much, but so they obviously at the golf course or at the mini golf or at the course they had for I think it was the trail cash crawl or something. But they did alternate. They did, I think, went bigger on gates at different stuff, and they had some serious pretty serious like staircase type stuff that was like wild, like super vertical. And I can understand that because it was a bonus line. I can understand even why and them guys, it's like I said, I'm assuming them guys are used to running a wider gate and they probably narrowed them down a little bit from there, but it's so that's cool. The other thing I was going to ask, y'all said on the board is how many of you, like 4 on the board?
There's 9 of us.
9 now?
And it was 5 to begin with.
Okay.
And then we added 4 more. And
that answers my question then.
It's always going to be an odd number.
That exactly. There you go.
Because when
that's where I was going.
Yeah, we actually have had some situations come up that we didn't all agree on a certain rule. Yeah. So when that happens, we state our case, we make the argument for it, and then we put it to a vote, and the majority rules. Yeah,
when me and Mitch talked about it, I was like 9 or 11. That would be your do a 9 or 11, and it can always be, hey, if somebody says, hey man, look, I'm, I got other stuff going on, I'm on back away. Obviously, bring somebody else in. You know what I mean, to fill a spot, or But if you got 9 or 11 at all times, you're pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We intentionally went with an odd number for that reason.
Yes. And like I said, I like that. So I think when I saw it, it was like 5 on there is what I saw.
It was 5 to begin with when we first got started, and then we've added 4 more.
Cool. Have you named who all of them were?
No, we can run down those rules. I mean,
you can pull it up, Corey,
I just want to know who to send emails to. I just need emails, really. No, I'm playing.
Well, there's me, obviously.
Right.
There is, just pull up the site.
There you go. Yeah, I guess I could have went and looked at the site. Hey, y'all check that site out. It is a nice site. I've been sending it out.
You're still on my local club page. Go to the RCMC.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, open. And then go up to the top, and then board of directors.
My bad.
Right next. Yep.
Oh yeah.
So Joe is kind of local to me. Dana is out in Michigan. He has I don't remember the name of where he competes, but he gets a huge crowd up there. Ben is out in Colorado. He's one of the ones. He and I first started this whole event, and then we added people from there. Rico is out on the West Coast, obviously. I don't know who that guy in the middle is. Theron's in Colorado. Sid is another local guy. He's a Virginia Tech student. And Mitchell is in Colorado. And it was not intentional that we're concentrated around Virginia and Colorado. How we started this initially is we put the rules out there. We said, give us your input. And we started noticing who had the most input, who had the most to say, who had the most.
Who was most active, really.
And who was the most active. And it just happened to be that's where the people were.
Yeah, and that's cool. Like I said, I mean, I assume over the years, you'll see different people come and go on the board. And
course.
I'm not saying in a bad way,
Correct.
you know, but it's,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
of course.
that life happens. And, you know,
Of course.
it's like that in any sport, man. It's always ever evolving. That's like, that's why I keep saying that is I think a lot of people see short term on stuff like this, you know? So
Yeah.
that's super cool. And how do y'all choose board members? And like I said, I'm just being thinking out loud.
How much money
There's
you can pay?
there's a couple ways. The
Hey,
first
what's your
one,
email?
were like we said, we saw who was the most active, who had the most input. Those are the ones we approached first.
Okay.
And then when we started adding people, there were people that I wanted on there for a particular reason. And I kind of exercised my executive authority being the founder. Ken was one of those. And Dana was one of the other ones, just because of their experience and their background. And the other one, what we did is we put out on our group, you know, we're looking to add board members. If you would like to be a board member, fill out this information, send it to us, and then we voted on the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's perfect. I'm just
and
like,
moving forward, it's going to be a lot more voting based, right?
Yeah, it will be.
You have to
We just
start
had to-
somewhere, and there's
We just
nobody
had
to
to,
vote.
yeah,
You have
we
nobody
had to
vote.
start with somewhere. So we picked people to begin with. And then in the future, when we, you know, I don't ever want to see this become a thing where we have officers, where we have a president, vice president, because that I think gives the wrong.
yeah.
impression.
No,
Like,
I think
I
a
don't-
board's better. It's all equal.
Yeah, I don't ever want it to be, you know, this is my group and these guys help me out or anything like that. This group is for all of us. It's not a case of this person does this person does that. We're all in this together.
Right. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yep.
Yeah, Ken, just let me know where I need to send payment to. Nah, Ken's good, dude. I've known Ken forever too.
Yeah.
Since I've been big into this. So it's I like it, man. I like what y'all are doing.
Yep.
Well, and I
But
mentioned
enough of
earlier,
me. If
Naz,
anybody
we've
else,
talked
don't let
about
me
this.
hold up the-
We've talked about this before behind the scenes, but like I am big on trying to make sure the hobby grows. That's kind of why I even started my channel, right? Is I wanted to be able to show people that they can do it. They can get in there, they can build their trucks, they can build their rigs, they can cut stuff, DKCSCs, solder things, just the basic stuff that we think is basic. But a new guy coming into the hobby's like, I am not even remotely interested in doing that. But once you get them to step in, they can do that. So when I got involved with RCMCCA, with the group, my process was like, I want to make sure it's approachable for new people. I want to make sure that any club can run it. Newer people can consume the rules without issue. It's kind of new person friendly, but able to be rigorous enough to withstand high level competition, you know? And I've said before, I have a background in actual game design rule sets, written rule sets. So it just kind of made sense to me to be able to go through it and look at it. And I just wanted to make sure I was involved in that. So if Chad didn't do it, I would have ended up doing it.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked to a lot of people about it, and you all know that like that was a goal I had at some point too. So when I saw Chad dump the group out there, I was like, oh, I'm in. I got to figure out how to get in there. So,
and you know me, from the word go, I'm all for it, but I was like, I don't want shit to do with it, because I think that's a great thing for y'all to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. That it keeps everybody happy. You know what I mean? Well, you know, it keeps the majorities happy
as much as you can. Yeah.
And let's play. We always speak in, you know, reality, to where, like I said, you know, you can't make it literally the state. That's no truest statement. You can't make everybody happy. But like I said, if you know you're going, like y'all said, going to an event, you're already going to know if you're going to be illegal most of the times. But there are going to be those occasions where you might roll in and, hey, some simple rule may have changed that maybe threw your specific setup out just by a touch. You can't be mad at it. It's just something that, you know, you got to come back and, you know, adapt and overcome it. And it's like this and everything. I tell people I come from motorsports and I come from sound competitions and all kinds of stuff. So this rules are nothing new to me, and it's all about
just got to know the rules before you go. Yeah,
exactly.
And that, you know, that's why we put, you know, the resources out there, like, you know, being able to contact us directly, being able to post in the Facebook group. We encourage people to do that because, you know, if you have a question, put it out there. We'll give you an answer.
Exactly.
May not be the answer you want to hear, but we'll answer it. And the group is good for that, because somebody else may have that exact same question and it's already answered.
Right.
So yeah, and we encourage people, as you're building it, if you have a question, let us know. We'll be happy to help you. This isn't, this is community. I've said that a lot, and there's a reason, because I really want to stress that it's a community effort. We're here to help you guys, and we're here to help the little people. I don't mean little people, the people that are putting on a very small event, just them and a couple of their friends. They mean as much to us as the people that are getting 50 and 60, 100 competitors at their events. We will do everything we can to help you get up and running, to help you, get your events off the ground.
Yeah, and I said it earlier, we're not just a rule set committee, we're a resource.
Right. Yeah, the rules had to come first because that's just how it works. But yeah, we're all accessible to you. We'll help you in any way we can. This won't grow if people don't, enjoy this process, and people don't get on board and start, competing and, being part of this. So we want to encourage everyone. And
another thing that competition does, and not just competition between manufacturers, but competing,
exactly.
Having events where you can compete, is it pushes manufacturers to do new things. I just saw in the chat somebody asking for a 0 degree cheat code so they can run it in class 1. But joking aside, like,
this is why I threw my hands up that I don't want to have shit to do with it, because I just want to talk. And I say follow the rules very, very lightly, because I'm kind of a rule breaker most of the time. But I'll follow them to the most extent. Yeah. So
no, but my
yeah,
point was
that's
that
what
it gives manufacturers a
It
way
does.
to see what people are running, what
It
people
does.
want.
Yep.
It builds popularity in different classes. People need exceptions. I need to follow in this class rule, but I don't have a part that does this thing because all the parts that exist are outside that class. So if a manufacturer can come along and satisfy that class with a new part, that's a huge deal. That's a big thing for a manufacturer to come up with a new part. So competition breeds that. It creates creativity.
Yeah, I've got a handmade 0 degree class 1 chassis right here. I couldn't
Hey,
find.
put that back up there real quick.
Don't do it.
Get that screenshot.
Oh, there's the new Maz cheat code 2.0.
I'm not gonna say who made this, because he doesn't do it to sell, but one of our board members made this for me.
Okay.
Oh, I know who made it. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, you know who it is.
Anyway.
All right. Anybody else got any questions for us?
Y'all want to take some questions from the chat?
I can
We've
take.
been
I'm
answering
gonna
along
I'm
the
gonna have
way
to get my
quite a
son
bit.
in bed here in a few minutes, but Ken is familiar with the rules as I am, so if he can stay on long as he wants to, and answer anything he wants. I've got a few more minutes.
Anyway,
So
I just encourage people. I think the number one thing is to get out there and try to get some buddies together at a local place on a regular schedule every Monday, every Saturday, every Tuesday, every other Tuesday, once a month. It doesn't really matter as long as it's on a schedule that people can rely on, and try to build up 4, 5, 10 guys out there running some comp rules, running, even if they want to run just so at our local place on Monday nights, we all basically just run class 3s. And there's people running their regular bodies and their regular trucks, but they understand we're running class 3s, and they just run it with us, and they sometimes destroy us, So it's really just a matter of getting people to show up, right? You just want to get people to show up, and people will show up if they understand the rules and they see that they're going to have a good time.
Yeah. And along those lines, if I could give one piece of advice to somebody that's either starting out or hadn't even started out, it just wants to start out having competitions, communicate with the people. My job is in communications, so that it kind of hits home with me, but make sure you're communicating, make sure you're going back and forth with the people that you want to come out, or anybody that's potentially interested. Let them know what's going on. Let them know, okay, we had this event. We here's the rules. Here's the entry fee if you're charging one. Make sure you're communicating with them. Make sure you're available to them. Make sure you can answer, any question they have. And if you can't, that you can direct them to us or to whoever to do it. But communication, is the building block of any of these kind of things. Making sure you're communicating with the people that you want out there at your events.
Right. Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, it sounds great to me too.
Let's see. Grizz, what's up? Queenie, what's up? Sorry, guys. Double A. I'm just going back through filling in. Tony, Dirt. What's up, everybody in the chat? Y'all definitely need to go check that website out. Like I said, they put a lot of time and effort into this. Support it. You know, like I said,
don't be afraid to reach out. If you have any questions,
got questions, concerns, make sure you reach out.
Yep.
Another thing that's a huge help, if you're not going to run local comps because you just know you don't have the people, the population, or whatever, but you like what we're doing and you're supporting the cause and you do want to see it grow, when you do end up having that opportunity locally, we would really appreciate any sort of promotion, sharing. If you see somebody talking about like, hey, anybody know anything about comps? Direct them to our website. Tell them, hey, there's an organization out there that has a rule set, has great resources that you can reach out to. Even if you yourself are not, maybe you're just not a comp person, you just don't care about comp, you care about building a cool scale rig that flexes, 90 degrees. Fine, that's totally cool. But if you want to help support in any way, just share our cause with the public and the people that are maybe asking about it.
Yeah, for sure. Stay involved with it, Yeah. Like I said, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it.
Exactly.
So.
And again, we're a group, we're a growing group, and we've got a lot of power behind us as far as promotional pushing. And if every person that adds into that is just huge to help grow the group, from the Facebook group, just from an information side, and then also the rule set, pushing the rule set. That's why I got these business cards made. I'll be at USTE this weekend or next weekend, and I'm going to be talking to anybody with a mini crawler and trying to hand out some business cards and say, hey guys, you interested in comps? Check this site out. There's a cool rule set. You can start local comps at your local clubs, and you don't have to worry about figuring out rules. We've got them for you. Join the Facebook group. We can answer any questions. We can help you with your builds. We can help you with classing your trucks, whatever you need. Come out and check us out. And so if more people did that sort of thing, we would get this thing global quickly, and we would all be on the same page, and we could all have some really awesome events. And something I've seen in other competitive stuff I was involved in the gaming side is when you have large events, it grows your locals, right? People know, man, there's a Worlds event. There was 400 people at this Worlds event. They gave out $10,000 in prizes to the top 5, like some crazy stuff like that. People are like, I want to get involved. How do I do that? Where do I start? And then you start local. It all trickles down. It all trickles back to local. And I think that's huge. So supporting the cause, we all appreciate it. And that's probably one of the better ways to do it is, again, just promote it to people. Let people know what we're doing. Sorry, it's off my soapbox.
No. That's why we got you here, Ken.
I know I talk a lot, and I'm very
nothing wrong with that.
Soapboxy.
Thanks, Tony. Let me get back in position though.
Grizzly, there is a Facebook.
Tony, keep me up on my,
you're it, Maz.
up on my negative space and all that. Make sure I'm out there.
There's.
Thanks, Tony.
Actually, in Chicago, Midwest. I'm sure it is. They got some an area on there. Am I right? But I don't think it's not that many people on there right now. Am I right?
We're working on that page. That's we're still getting that part of it going. If you look on the member clubs, there we go. We're still. That's a work.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. If you know a club that runs events, say, hey, check out this website. They've got a rule set, and they'll list you on the website as a place to go for comps. So like it helps everybody. It helps the local shops. It's huge. What's up, Roger?
Sign up for the email list as well.
Yes.
Right here, make sure you do that.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna spam you with tons of emails. We're probably only going to send out maybe half dozen a year. It's just when there's big things to announce. So
another thing, this live stream right here, I huge thanks to GNC RC. You're doing an awesome job. Thanks for letting us do this on here. And what I highly recommend anybody share this live stream even
Yes,
after the fact,
absolutely.
because we had tons of great information in here. If you're just now joining us, I know Roger just joined in, a couple other guys, Quinn's RC just joined in. So go back and watch this stream. This is not one of the typical streams where there's just a lot of BS and a lot of fun and a lot
Hey,
of
you're
good
gonna
stuff.
stop
You know-
putting us down over here, Ken.
No,
You
no,
can
no,
come
no,
up
no.
in here
No,
and
no, no,
act
no,
like
no,
we
no.
can't act right.
No, hear me out. And
true.
having
That's
fun.
very
I know
true.
what the streams are about. I love them. That's why
Hey,
I watch. But my
me and
point is-
Corey actually had a conversation today.
Yeah, no, my point is though that this stream in particular is a good stream
Yeah.
to share so that people
Yes,
can
yeah.
hear all the information that we shared. We shared a ton of info in here. So it's not, again, it's not just a disposable stream. This is a stream that you're going to want to save,
Hey.
reshare, add it to your favorites, whatever.
Something else y'all may want to look into that wouldn't really be too bad to do is do a QR code. That way on any flyers, any kind of
Yeah.
stuff at the events, there's a QR code on basically everything printed. And if,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because you're
that-
talking about a rules list that's, you know, on the
Exactly.
internet, scrolling down. And
Yeah.
just coming from what I come from, there's always like, if you try to take it out of the equation to where, hey, man, you could have scanned a QR code anywhere on this property
Yeah.
or before or whatever. But that's cool because if you can provide that to people that are putting on stuff, they can add that to their flyers. They don't have to lay out a whole bunch of rules on a flyer. They can say, hey, go to the QR code, see the rules
Right.
before, make sure you're
Okay,
prepared.
That's a good
before you
idea.
come.
I'll work on that.
Something simple, or I mean, the website link works easy, but I just learned about
It's a
QR
lot,
code.
well, it's a lot
like
easier to just
yesterday.
point your phone at something, and let the phone do all the work.
There you
Right. Absolutely.
go. But yeah.
So I don't know if is that it for you guys?
Yeah, I've
I think
got to
I'll
get my
go
son in
everything.
bed, and I got to get up early in the
Yeah, I
morning
don't
to go to work.
want to y'all
But,
too long.
but I can't tell you how much I appreciate you having us on here.
Oh man, I appreciate you guys jumping on here.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this for all day. It's obviously something that we're passionate about. And again, I'll just say again, if you have any questions, if you have comments, whatever, website, email, Facebook group, whatever, reach out to us. We're here for you guys.
I'm pinning this stream in the group and I'm going to
Okay,
put it at
yeah,
the top
great.
of the group
Thank you.
so that people can watch it
Yep.
later.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to shut the live down, but you guys can stay here if you want to. And if anybody want to join on the offline, just guys let me know. Ken, I really appreciate you. Chad, appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We appreciate you too, Corey. You're killing it. And like I said, we really appreciate it. Taking your time to let us talk about the organization.
Anytime, man. Anytime you and whatever, man. Just let me know.
Yeah, and I
No,
mean, honestly, we'll get back on later in the season, talk about how things have been going.
Please do. Yeah, please do.
For sure.
All right, I'm gonna end the live. Thank you guys. All you
Thank you,
guys.
everybody. Thanks, chat.